condensation. The second process that takes place during the hydrologic cycle is condensation. It is the process by which water vapor gets converted into water. Condensation occurs only when air becomes saturated. Air can become saturated in two ways. When the temperature of air decreases, its capacity to hold water decreases, and thus air gets saturated. When more evaporation occurs, the air can become saturated. The water vapor rises up in the atmosphere, where it is cooler. This causes air to become saturated. On further cooling, the excess water vapor condenses as a film of water vapor around minute particles such as dust, carbon particles in some, pollen grains, etc. These tiny impurities are called condensation nuclei. As more and more water vapor condenses, they become minute droplets of water forming clouds. During this conversion of water vapor into water, energy is given out. The minute droplets may be seen in different forms. The first form that we know of is a cloud. A cloud is a mass of small water droplets or tiny ice crystals that float in the air. A cloud is formed when the temperature of air is below the dew point. Although water and ice are clear, clouds look white in color because the droplets and crystals scatter sunlight. When clouds block the sunlight, they appear gray. Clouds can be classified on the basis of their shape and the height at which they are formed. The first type is heaps or bubbles. If warm air rises rapidly from the Earth's surface, these type of clouds are formed. If warm air rises slowly over a large area, it forms layers or strata, which is the second type of clouds. There are three families of clouds. The first family is called high clouds. High clouds are found 6 kilometers above the Earth. They are mostly made up of crystals. The prefix 0 refers to high clouds. The first example of high clouds is cirrus, which is a thin, delicate ice crystal cloud. These kind of clouds sometimes appear as hooked filaments called mare's tails. The second example of such kind of a cloud is called a cirrocumulus, which is a thin, white crystal cloud in the form of ripples, waves or globular mass, all in a row. The third example of high clouds is cirrostratus. It is a thin sheet of white ice crystal clouds that may give the sky a milky look. These clouds sometimes also produce halos around the sun or moon. The second family of clouds is called the middle clouds. These clouds usually lie between 2 and 6 kilometers above the Earth. Altocumulus is an example of middle clouds. These are white to grey clouds, often composed of globules. Another example of middle clouds is an altostratus. These clouds are stratified veil of clouds that are generally thin and may produce very light precipitation. The third type of cloud family is called the low clouds, which lie between 2 kilometers from the Earth's surface. The prefix nimbo or the suffix nimbus refers to these clouds. They are rain-bearing clouds. Stratocumulus is a low cloud which is a soft grey cloud in globular patches or rolls. Rolls may further join together to make a continuous cloud. Stratus is another example of low clouds. These clouds create a low uniform layer that resembles fog, but does not rest on the ground. These clouds may produce slight drizzles. Nimbostratus is also an example of low clouds. They form an amorphous layer of dark grey clouds. They are one of the chief precipitation-producing clouds. Luke Howards in 1804 gave the Latin names cirrus, cumulus and stratus to clouds. Some clouds do not fit into any of the three families of clouds. Such clouds have their bases at low height range but extend upwards to the middle or high altitudes. These clouds are known as clouds of vertical development. Cumulus is a cloud of vertical development. This cloud is dense, billowy, often characterized by a flat base. It may occur as an isolated cloud or a closely packed cloud. Cumulonimbus is another example of clouds of vertical development. It is a towering cloud, sometimes spreading out on top to form an annual head. It is associated with heavy rainfall, thunder, lightning, hail, and tornadoes. Meteorologists measure the amount of cloud covering the sky in a unit called an octa. 1 octa represents 1/8 of cloud cover. The number of octas of cloud cover are represented on weather maps by a partly shaded circle. Minute droplets can also be seen in other forms such as mist, fog, dew, and frost. Fog is a cloud that forms near the ground. It forms as a result of condensation. At night, the fall in the temperature reduces the capacity of air to hold water vapor. When air cools below its dew point, the excess moisture is given out in the form of water droplets just above the ground. The most obvious effect of fog is reduction in visibility, which may drop to as low as a 3-meter thick fog. Fog usually disappears soon after sunrise. This is because, as the temperature gradually rises, the capacity of the air to hold water vapor increases and the droplets of water are reabsorbed into the atmosphere. Dense fogs have caused many aviation and road accidents. Even today, aircraft landing in thick fog is not usually allowed. Mist is formed in the same way as fog, but is less dense than fog because the size of water droplets in this case is smaller. If the visibility is more than 1 to 2 kilometers, the fog is called a mist. Dew is usually seen early in the morning in the form of small drops of water on the ground and other cool surfaces. The main difference between dew and fog is that dew is seen as drops of water. Frost occurs when a thin layer of moist air near the ground cools below the freezing point and immediately forms ice crystals. Frost, when formed on plants, can be harmful because the water within the leaves of the plant freezes. This is why growing season depends on the number of frost-free days. Frost can cause dangerously slippery roads. The weight of ice on electrical transmission wires may cause them to break.